I mean, I still believe that. I mean, they're just a great basketball team led by great seniors. So, I mean, what makes them great, they get through adversity real quick, get to the next place quick, and they shift defenses real well on the offensive end.
Other questions for the student athletes? Right here.
Right away in the second half, you got all the way up by 9. What happened right out of the gates, and then how were they able to kind of claw back into it a little?
Mark, we'll let you take that, please.
I mean, Penn State, we're hitting a lot of tough shots, especially in the first half. I mean, they were like 7 for 12. They were really hot. So in the second half, we just want to try to make them uncomfortable and make them take as tough a shot as possible. They still got something to go in, but I feel like we did a pretty good job of that.
Additional questions for the student athletes? Out to Teddy. Then we'll come back down front here.
Mark, what's it going to take to beat Spartans?
It's going to take us bonding together, not turning the ball over as much, and just trying to make them uncomfortable on offense. Try to break their pace with ball pressure to the best of our ability.
Right down here in front.
This is for Lau. I think there was about 2 minutes left. You guys were sort of discombobulated with the shot clock running down. I think you took it upon yourself to go to the hoop and score. Just how much of a boost is that, knowing you could kind of make what looked like a terrible situation into a good play?
That just comes from my teammates and coaches believing in me, and it gives my self-confidence. I mean, with them believing in me, I feel like I can pretty much get to the rack and score every time. So, I mean, opportunity presented itself, and I just took it.
Anything else for the student athletes? Right to Mike.
Mark, you've really had a great surge the last 3-4 weeks. What's been the difference in your game as you've progressed toward the end of the year?
Coach Mata, shooting school. We do shooting school every day in practice. So just being able to knock down shots from the good positions Jaquan and AJ put me in.
Is there one final one for the student athletes before I let them go? All right, thanks, fellas. You may return to the locker room.
Thank you.
Take questions for Coach Mata.
Good job, boys.
Right down here in front.
That things were kind of spinning out of control a little bit in the first half at one point, but you decided not to call a timeout, and it didn't even look like you said anything to the team on the floor. You just kind of sat back and let them play. Is that sort of a strategy you've taken on this year? We kind of just let them learn from their mistakes with instead of calling a timeout and yelling at them or whatever.
Absolutely not. I wish that's been the biggest rule change is the lack of timeouts. I knew we were probably going to struggle a little bit early, and as I told these guys afterwards, Mark's played in a conference tournament, and we had a combined 24 minutes of other guys that have ever played in a conference tournament, and that's unbelievable if you think about it in today's day and age of college basketball. But with that said, we knew what the problem was. We weren't playing hard enough defensively. Our rotations we weren't helping each other, and simply it's one of those where I thought we were doing okay offensively, and they were hitting some pretty tough shots, but I kind of wanted to see how we could play out. I thought we had a little run in us, and we cut back into it. But that was, I don't know, I mean, it was sitting at 7. They may have got up to 9 or 10 or something like that, but yeah.
Over on the aisle.
Coach, with such a young team, how much has this group really grown over the course of the season?
Well, they've made strides. There's no question about it. I think that looking back to where we started and just the one thing, and I remember talking about it this summer, was we have to act more mature than we probably are, and at times we do, and we do a decent job of it. Other times we don't. And I was trying to explain to these guys this week coming in that if you hang on to something in this tournament, you're going home. You've got to really play forward. And fortunately for us, I thought probably the last 24 minutes with a couple of blips in the second half, I thought that they did a pretty decent job of that.
Right down here in front.
That you've played in or coached in conference tournaments enough. I mean, conference tournaments present anxiety in and of itself, but given your guys' situation with the NCAA tournament, the possibilities of that, what's it like, or describe what's it like to watch your team sort of play with maybe extra anxiety given the circumstances and watching them sort of play well once Penn State did take the lead?
Yeah, you know, it's funny because, and Dan Wallenberg's going to check on it, but I think in 12 years in this tournament, our margin of victory in our first game is probably about 4 points. I mean, it's been amazing, and we've brought a lot of young teams here. But with that said, you know, as I told these guys, hey, we got this one out of the way. We got what we came for. We didn't play as well as maybe we wanted to. But Penn State, you got to give them, those guys were fighting for their lives, and Pat did an incredible job. But you know, with that said, we've got to continue to grow, and you know, that's been probably the biggest challenge with this team, is continuing to make strides and find consistency throughout, that we know what we're getting.
Over on the right side.
Yeah, Thad, over here. The game had its runs. Each team had its runs. Just talk about when it got closer at the end, what was ultimately the difference for you guys pulling the game out?
Well, we got some stops down the stretch, and then made our free throws, and you know, I thought that that was probably, and Jaquan had a couple big plays down the stretch. Mark had a couple where he got in, got fouled, and you know, knocking down a majority of the free throws was the biggest thing for us. But you know, also I thought, you know, we told them going in that last, because there was a stretch there where like the game was stopped for like 7 minutes, and you know, I'm telling the guys, like, come on, man, don't lose focus, don't lose focus. And I thought they did a good job coming out of that.
Out here to Teddy.
Coach, what makes you think you can beat Michigan State, assuming you do?
Well, I think, you know, the biggest thing is they got to get by University, and if they can get by them, then, you know, I don't know a lot about by, but no, you know, I think this, it's March. They are a great team. You know, they pose so many problems, but with that said, as I've told these guys, we have to play better than we've played the first 2 games. You know, if they shoot 68% or whatever they shot against us 5 days ago, we're probably in trouble. So we know the first thing is we're going to have to defend, and we're going to have to do a great job doing that. And you know, we're going to have to play harder. We're going to have to play smarter, and you know, hey, anything can happen now.
We'll take 2 more. We'll go over here first.
Yeah, this is going to sound like a loaded question, but Thad, where do you think your team is in terms of poise and recognition? I mean, you just said earlier that you think strides are being made, but I saw some eye rolls too, and some, I don't know, some weird things that developed during the game. Where is this team? Obviously, we know they're young, but you're 30-plus games into it now. Are they still an enigma to you, or are they getting it, or where are they?
They try my patience at times, but no, I think that we're growing. It just one of the biggest things when you come to college is you have no respect for every possession of the game, and I think that's been the biggest thing we've tried to get these guys to understand, that every single possession is vitally important. First half, second half, whenever it is, and as my message has kind of been going in that you know, you can't hang on to things in a tournament like this. You can't pout, you can't complain. You got to get on to the next situation, and you know, I think we do better at that, but probably still have a ways to go. But you know, every time I watch this team play, I think back to '08 when there was some young guys named Diebler and Lauderdale and Leidy and those guys, and they turned out to be really good players for us.
Last one right here.
This is a little unrelated, but one of your former proteges, a guy who coached with you across 3 stops, John Gross, is on a nice little run to start this tournament. He's had a rough couple of years. Have you able to communicate with? I know you're in the same conference as him, but
right.
What would you say to him to kind of get through it? You know, the new AD came out in support of him lately, but it looks like he's going to keep it going now on a nice little run so far.
Yeah. Well, you know, I think that John is doing a great job there. You know, I've always said that, you know, Bill Carmody to me was maybe the most unluckiest coach I've ever seen in the Big Ten in terms of injuries and the time the injuries happen. I'm so happy that, he got in last night with Holy Cross. But I say that from a standpoint, John's been, the injury bug is hitting. It hits us all. I mean, I don't have Jay Sean Tate, but, there's nobody that's going to outwork John. There's nobody who's going to do it the right way, the way John does, and I'm happy to see those guys on a run right now, and I'm not even sure who they play tomorrow, but I know today was a big win for them.